Hi guys, this is Alex Zeason. I'm fixing to be covering the history of wrestling, specifically 3 different styles of wrestling: folk style, freestyle, and Greco-Roman. The first style we're going to cover is folk style. It was first introduced into the Americas early on in the 1800s. It was brought over by European settlers, even though it's technically considered to be developed here in the Americas. It was really brought over by European settlers, like most everything else. It was adopted by the Scholastic Age, as well as high school and collegiate, mainly because it requires you to wear protective headgear. You have to shave your beard if it's really scruffy, and you have to have a hairnet if your hair is super long, flowy, things like that. And this Scholastic Age being young kindergartners, all the way up until college age students, things like that. And this is for the safety part of it, and has been for a very, very, very long time. Some of the biggest names in folk style wrestling, which is, like you said, or like I just said, school wrestling: Dan Gable, Nick Suriano, Bo Nichols, Spencer Lee, Kyle Snyder, Austin DeSanto, and Jordan Burroughs. Jordan Burroughs is probably the biggest name up there. He's one of the best wrestlers to ever come across the world. Just an all-around athlete. Probably one of my favorite matches that consisted of folk style wrestling is Spencer Lee, Austin DeSanto, when they were wrestling in the Pennsylvania State Championship match a few years back. Austin DeSanto won. They were just really competitive. Anyways, Spencer Lee came back when they wrestled in college and actually beat Austin DeSanto. So anyways, I just thought that was really neat. Some of the terminology would be takedown, shoot. A lot of the times you'll hear them in the stands yelling, shoot, shoot, things like that. And that's usually just letting you know you got low time on the clock. You might be down some points, or you might be up just barely. But they want you, anyways, they want you to go into overdrive, go on the offensive, and just get you some points on the board, try to win the match. And a takedown, as you can see, I just took a shot, got in on him real low, and now he's headed to the mat, and I'm fixing to get points for a takedown. Takedown consists of 2 points when they hit the mat. As well as some other terminology being turn, which is actually what I'm doing to this young guy right here. I'm on top, got his head leveraged, looks like I'm about to break his arm. I'm fixing to turn him, try to get him on his back, get a pin. If he was to reverse out, this would mean he would have to slip out and get on top of me. He would get 2 points for that, one being for an escape, and another point for him reversing control of the situation. On top, generally, it started from the beginning of a period. You elect to either go on top, bottom, or you can elect to go neutral. I always like to go neutral. Escape. If you escape from the bottom, and if you start from the bottom, if you get an escape, that's 1 point. It's an easy point if you're good at escaping, things like that. The next style is freestyle wrestling. Like I just said, probably one of the best wrestlers to ever go from folk style, which is not hard to go from folk style to freestyle. There's not if anything, it's probably easier of the transition because of the less rules in freestyle. Freestyle was first developed in 1904. It was first developed in 1904. It was introduced into the Olympic Games in St. Louis that was held that year in 1904. But it didn't become international until 1908 in the London Games, where people from all over the world came to London that year in 1908 and to compete in freestyle wrestling, as well as Greco-Roman wrestling. Some of the fundamentals and landmarks of freestyle wrestling. One of the coolest things to me was that freestyle, Greco-Roman, folk style, they all have a lot of the same terminology. So you're not going to have a lot of different terms being used for these names and things. So the main difference between freestyle and folk style, like I said, there's less rules. You don't have to wear headgear. You don't have to shave. You can have as long as hair if you want. And a good example of that would be Pat Downey, if you guys want to look him up. I didn't put a picture of him for some reason, but Another a main difference is that the difference in time. A folk style match consists of 3 periods, each period consisting of 3 minutes, but freestyle, 3 periods, each period consisting of 5 minutes. That's a super long time to be wrestling for one period. It wasn't until 1989 that the longevity of these matches was upped from 3 minutes to what we know now as 5 minute matches, 5 minute periods, excuse me. One of the biggest things in the wrestling world was that in 2004, the women were allowed to wrestle in the Olympics as well as the Pan American Games. Before 2004, women were not allowed to wrestle. Women were not allowed to wrestle at all. So that was huge for the women, because if you're looking for equal rights, there you go right there. Women were now, ever since 2004, women have been allowed to wrestle in the Olympics as well as the Pan American Games. And this picture right here is actually from the 2004 Olympic Games. Let's see. Greco-Roman wrestling first began in, it's been going on for 15,000 and something years. When they first found the cave paintings of guys doing similar moves that we're using now in Greco-Roman. And these cave paintings back in France that were discovered way back when. But now they got the term Greco-Roman because these guys, they wanted to instill the same values that that their ancestors had, especially based right around the Mediterranean Sea area. That was widely practiced there, so, thus the name Greco-Roman, It joined the Olympics in 1896, which is also the same year that it received the name Greco-Roman. So it became international in 1896 as well. So, but one of the weird things is that the Olympics are supposed to be held, every 4 years or so, and they actually skipped 1 year for some reason. I'm not sure why. Anyways, some of the top wrestling programs in the nation, in the United States, would be Iowa State and Penn State, and one of the best wrestlers to ever pass through Iowa State, or probably the best wrestler to ever pass through Iowa State, is Cael Sanderson. His record of 159 wins, 0 losses, has not been beaten by anybody. He's just an all-around beast. He wrestled in the 197 weight class, which is just an absolute brute of a weight class. And he is actually the head coach of this young man you see right here, Nick Lee. Nick Lee also has a pretty decent record of 87 wins and 13 losses. Nick Lee actually wrestles for the University of Penn State, and he wrestles the 141-pound weight class, which is also another competitive weight class, and it's just, it's pretty cool. I thought it was neat, that Cael Sanderson transitioned from being one of the world-renowned wrestler to now being a head coach, especially being he's not all that old. He could probably still wrestle if he wanted to. So this is Cael Sanderson here at the top, and this is Nick Lee. And this is the We're Excited. So this, guys, has been the history of wrestling.